going through this process mindfully is yoga. The exercises are kriyas, they're part of, their techniques of yoga, but they're not the yoga itself. The yoga itself is the inner relationship. The yoga itself is us actually having inner discovery of what is real and what isn't real. You know, to see this whole kind of world that we live in is a bit like magical illusion, isn't it? And the discovery of yoga is to try to actually find what is actually real. And of course, the problem with that is our minds can't tell us what is actually real. Not in the way that we normally, ordinarily use our mind, when it's operating in this realm of ups and downs, goods and bads, sick and healthy, together apart, etc., etc., etc. It's not that these things aren't substantive relatively. They are. Our relationships are relatively very substantive, and the more important the relationship in our lives, the more substantive it is, but it's just relatively substantive. The tendency of our mind is to absolutize things. Do you know what I mean? When you say absolutize, I don't even know if that's a word, but it's not important. That idea is what's important. What does that look like? When I've convinced myself, even subconsciously, that it's the relationship that is going to bring the supreme happiness. No thing like that brings supreme happiness, but that's our subconscious tendency to absolutize something, turn it into an absolute. We do that in like extremes with religions, where we turn certain things into absolutes. Like Jesus is absolutely the Son of God. And so then when you take a mythological idea, which has actually tremendous value in it for people, relatively speaking, it can act like something that actually helps us get deeper into devotion, get deeper into happiness, get deeper into love and for caring one another. Then it has substance, it's relative substance. But when that thing that we're pointing to has now become like the absolute, then it's excluding everything else. It creates suffering. And we do that in our own minds all the time. That's our mind's habitual tendency to grasp on to what seems like it's going to give us happiness and to push away what seems like it's going to give us unhappiness. But it does that really in response to the stimuli of pleasure and pain. Grasp onto things that are more pleasurable, push away things that are more painful. That's its kind of default mode to some extent or another for pretty much everyone. And then as we mature a little bit, even just little baby steps, we can do that a little less because our experience, we don't need even yoga for that. Going through this process mindfully is yoga. The exercises are kriyas, they're part of, their techniques of yoga, but they're not the yoga itself. The yoga itself is the inner relationship. The yoga itself is us actually having inner discovery of what is real and what isn't real. So when that pursuit becomes centered around the pursuit of happiness, pursuit of real happiness, then that takes us down this kind of, let's just call it a dance of discovering how do I enjoy pleasure without grasping onto it. And how do I embrace pain without being dominated by it and without being overcome by it? And the answer is baby steps. Yeah, and it's just kind of experiencing, feeling, and then refining from there. And that's how we all live our lives. We're experiencing things, feeling into them there, and then we go from there. But when you throw some practices onto that to help that process, it is very much like sharpening the sword. And that's all. But then what we tend to do is absolutize the practice that we're doing. And we say, Kundalini Yoga. Oh, it's the best fucking thing. It's just one of so many things. It really is. But there's so many fantastic things. So we find the things that work for us, And then we use them, and sometimes we use them for a season, and sometimes they stick with us for a lifetime, but even our lifetime is just really a season. In the bigger scheme of things, I think. Doesn't it feel that way? It just goes like that, doesn't it? It's just like a dream. Hey, thanks for watching on YouTube. Best easy way to stay in touch with us. Hit the subscribe button here. You'll see our videos when they come up. If you enjoyed this one, hit the like button. It'll help more people see it, help the channel grow. I appreciate you watching.